if I buy this pen into a store and I can only use this pen at the store I bought it, that's nonsense. Who said I couldn't use this pen on any piece of paper, anywhere, at home, at school, etc.? Well, that's how limited technology was before. You could only use the digital asset that you spent with real money into the places, games, platform where you acquired them. The operator of those platforms, the developer, were restricting the possibility of users to exchange them with each other because they want to lock value and lock user in. That's how their business model has been designed. Now, imagine growing into Web3. The world is going and ultimately toward Web3. And anyone who is born with Web3 in 10 years, no way they're going to go back into Web2.
No one's ever done this before. Everyone's been talking about it for years and years and years. But I mean, this really feels like a revolution in gaming and something that'll actually change gaming itself because of the business model. Is that what you see as well?
I'm seeing much deeper connections between the creator of content and their fan. And we're going back to the idea of what was the web was originally meant to be, a place where you meet new people, you make new interesting connections, and you no longer value just having millions and millions of followers which are just passively watching or liking, but you have few hundred, few thousand people highly engaged who are creatively contributing with you, and that's how it should be.
The world is changing. Inspiration is everywhere. It has never been so easy to connect, share, and bring people together. We're learning from others and finding the best in ourselves. Challenging our beliefs. Sharing our vulnerability. Overcoming our fears. Transforming ourselves so we can transform the world. How far can we go?
This is London Real. I am Brian Rose. My guest today is...
This is London Real. I am Brian Rose. My guest today is Sebastien Borget, the entrepreneur, technologist, and blockchain gaming pioneer. You are the co-founder and COO of the Sandbox, the decentralized virtual gaming world where players can build, own, and monetize their experiences on virtual land through the use of NFTs. You have over 13 years of experience in growing startups and developing mobile games that have been downloaded millions of times all over the world. You were also named in the top 100 most influential people in crypto by Cointelegraph and have committed yourself to building an open metaverse that enables users to truly own their identity. The Sandbox has generated over $144 million in gross merchandise value to date, with over 1.6 million registered users. I'm one of them. Over 165 brands, including Adidas, Snoop Dogg, and The Walking Dead, have created versions of their worlds and characters in your metaverse. Sebastien, welcome to London Real.
Thank you.
It's great to have you here. I can't wait to jump in and talk about Metaverse. And maybe we'll start right there because 6 months ago, I really didn't understand the Metaverse very well. I was lucky to have a call with Yat Siu of Animoca Brands, who I know has been partnering with you for many years. And he started to explain Metaverse, but maybe you can help explain it further to me and my users. You know, when I was talking to Yat, we were on a live video call and he said, Brian, this is the Metaverse. If you think about it, we're having a digital experience with each other. And a lot of people don't understand that they actually are in the Metaverse in many ways. We're thinking about how that evolves. And I was wondering if I could get your thoughts on that. And also, my mom is 78 years old. She lives in California. And she doesn't understand the Metaverse. Yeah, say hi. Maybe you can explain it to her. I will say, Sebastien, that she does have a hot wallet. She does have some crypto and some stable coins. So that's a start. But how do you start that explanation of kind of what is the Metaverse to the normal everyday person?
All right. So putting it in simple terms, what's the Metaverse? It's this myriad of virtual worlds and digital universes that you can access through an avatar. That avatar is a 3D representation of yourself, so you can engage through more social, for more rich, more immersive experiences. Virtual worlds have been existing for more than 25 years already. We've seen that before. But what's new, what's different is that avatar that you own, you can transfer it from one virtual world to another. You keep the same identity across all those virtual worlds. You keep the same digital good, digital asset, virtual land, and currency across them, which is currently not the case with Second Life, Roblox, Minecraft, Fortnite, Meta, and the likes. And that's what makes, in my opinion, the metaverse truly a metaverse. It is open. It lets its user own their identity, their currencies, their tokens. And this is achieved, and that's the novelty, through a technology that is blockchain and NFTs. And I think, like, what can you see in terms of experience in the metaverse? You're going to see a little bit of all the activities you already see in the real world. Social clubs, virtual concerts, shows, games, place where you can discover art, galleries, museum, so much more. And you're going to see way more fun, way more engaging things that come out of anyone's imagination beyond laws of physics and more.
Wow. All right, that's a pretty good explanation. And like you said, we've seen metaverses before. Like you mentioned things like Minecraft and you know, I played Grand Theft Auto back in the day, which, you know, has strange parallels to Sandbox because there's a map. I think I remember there being a map of LA, and I had a character who could create assets, you know, and buy things and steal things, but it was always enclosed in that closed metaverse, right? I didn't bring my character with me. I didn't get any of that value. And is that the big distinction between what you're building in the open metaverse and these previous closed?
I do think so. Like what you've seen before, they are games, they are virtual world at best, but they are not metaverse. Like you do not own the content, you do not own your identity. Your time and contribution is not valued as you participate into building this world as a creator or spending time in this world as a user. And that's because everything is actually stored in a closed ecosystem or platform by one company that operates it. And that company is actually capturing all the value that is being generated by the activities and the creation and the content of that world for itself, rather than distributing it back to the users who make that world exist, alive, and thrive. So that's, in my opinion, really the difference we're seeing today, why we're entering this new realm of a metaverse, and what it enables behind. It's just monumental. It enables a whole digital economy where assets can have value and be transferred across worlds, and the creation of services on top of those assets, which leads to jobs and more.
Yeah, and I want to talk about some of the job creation and income generation with play to earn models on the blockchain. I mean, it's been pretty incredible the last couple of years. You know, you mentioned the fact that, you know, as humans, I guess we always grew up by giving away our information and our digital identities kind of for free. I think Yat Siu called it digital colonialism. The companies took our data and now they sell it back to us in many ways, shapes, and forms, and we never took ownership of it. It's almost like we never recognized as humans that it was our right to have that information. You know, I'm sure I've got countless avatars back on my Atari games and Castle Wolfenstein on my Apple II Plus and all of these things, and even my Facebook account, right, that has my identity and information, but I'll never own it or extract value from that. Do you think part of this is a paradigm shift where you have to educate humans that we actually deserve to own our own value and information, and we should have the right to take this with us and move this around to different places?
I think so. I do think like it's not because we didn't thought it was an issue before, or we didn't even think it was possible because technology did not allow it before, that we should be happy with that situation. Let me take a concrete example. If I buy this pen into a store and I can only use this pen at the store I bought it, That's nonsense. Why? Who said I couldn't use this pen on any piece of paper, anywhere, at home, at school, etc.? Well, that's how limited technology was before. You could only use the digital asset that you spent with real money into the places, games, platform where you acquired them. And the operator of those platforms, the developer, were restricting the possibility of users to exchange them with each other, sell it on marketplaces, or even further, because they want to lock value and lock user in. That's how their business model has been designed, to let their users go somewhere else. Now, imagine growing into Web3, growing into this, like anything I described is now possible. You can take your identity, your asset anywhere else, sell them, etc. How in the world would you go back to a place where you can't do that? You feel like, oh, now you're taking out my right to do so. And that's why I think like the world is going and ultimately toward Web3. And anyone who is born with Web3 in 10 years, no way they're going to go back into Web2. Also, there's a whole business model in Web2. You said like companies collect my data and use that data to sell to advertisers, so they try to promote me more application, more apps to download or product to buy, etc. It's a way to think the web in a very transactional manner. First of all, so it's not great in terms of user experience. We just try to optimize for people to buy, consume, rather to people have experience, socialize, have fun, connect better. So we lost a bit of that essence, but it became really worse, typically for game developers who are essentially implementing ads. Developers just hate implementing all the solution, SDK, etc. for ads. Users hate ads. They don't like to spend time or watch them. Still, that was the only model that helped developers to monetize when users didn't spend the 1 to 3% conversion on in-app purchase. And how is it possible? Is it possible because the developers allowed companies like Facebook, Google, etc., to collect the data from their users so they can then target them, sell back to the developer through advertising, the possibility for them to target users, to bring users to their business model. So even at the end of the day, developers they think they were earning 70% of the revenue they generate, but if they spend 50, 80% back into user acquisition to get new users, they are left with very little. So in the end, nobody win, nobody is really happy about that model, but because it was the only available, nobody really complained. I think, again, we can do much better, and that's what Web3, which is more user-centric and community-driven, which is rewarding users for the values they bring into a network at all the levels, from the layer protocol to the dApps protocol now, and in Metaverse even more specifically. We're building something much more better, and where the incentives are aligned across all parties by sharing it through the right orders.
Yeah, and you make a great point, Sebastien. It actually changes the whole experience for someone when they then come online, because we're all now so conditioned, right, to being sold to and converted by, 4 major companies that create marketplaces and take 30 to 40 to 50% out of each trade. Maybe I'm talking about YouTube and Google and Facebook and Amazon, who again have created these amazing companies, but they're the middlemen on all these transactions and they take a big chunk out, which, you're right, turns us into consumers. And the whole mentality is a consumption mentality, and it's never optimized for, like you said, fun and experience, and then value creation and peer-to-peer transactions. So and again, we kind of see this with crypto assets, this massive growth, which some call between 60 to 120% year on year, is enabled, many say, because of this peer-to-peer sharing of value and partaking in the value of the ultimate network. So it's kind of exciting to see. I mean, this really feels like a revolution in gaming, and something that'll actually change gaming itself because of the business model. Is that what you see as well?
I think essentially it is exactly what I'm seeing. I'm seeing much deeper connections between the creator of content and their fan. So I will never talk about client or consumer in the metaverse. I think that term is really wrong. It's already thinking into a mindset where you want to sell something to someone. There's a better relation between brands and fans, or creators and their fans, thanks to the metaverse and thanks to NFTs that bring community of holders together into a space where they can be more creative, they can exchange their culture, their lifetime, they are bound through the ownership of the common asset. And we're going back to the idea of what was the web was originally meant to be, a place where you meet new people, you make new interesting connections, and you no longer value just having million and million of followers, which are just passively watching or liking, but you have few hundred, few thousand people highly engaged who are creatively contributing with you. And everyone who contributes to that growth of your network, to that value, to that exchange, to this form of experience as being part of a community, specifically into a metaverse one, everyone is fairly rewarded for that. And even to be more precise, when I say fairly, actually creators who put content for sale, they get back 100% of the value of the content they sell. That's how it should be.
Yeah, it's such a new concept, and it's one that we already see people are grabbing onto. You know, I have an academy, and we teach, you know, DeFi in the academy, but I've also taught people how to build businesses and brands. And, you know, Sebastien, there's a famous article on the web that was written by Kevin Kelly called Your 1,000 True Fans. And it was that, you probably know it, it was this concept of the long tail the internet brought. He basically said, you don't need 1 million fans, you just need 1,000. I had someone on the other day that said, Brian, with the metaverse, you need 100, you know, with NFTs. And so focus on adding great value to a few people, make the connection, deliver value, and you don't have to rack up millions and millions of passive fans. You can have real connection, add real value, and then, you know, take all the value for yourself to create more things. And yeah, it's an incredible concept. And I never thought I would be saying 100 true fans. But is it getting closer to 100 than 1,000?
So far, in Web3, given the size of the overall number of wallets, it is that size of community. Ultimately, I feel like community will be in the region of 1,000, 100,000, and it's going to be large enough because it's so much engagement, so much already connection with fans and creators, than trying to aim again for many million followers, but not actively engaged people. Also, digital scarcity enables that. When you think about most of the NFT projects, they are all scaled at 10,000 collections, 10,000 unique NFTs that you can own, and makes you a member of a club. Sometimes I like to think like the Bored Ape is a club, the CryptoPunk is a club, and what entices you is not just owning the digital asset, it's the experience, the creativity, and many more perks and benefits now that happen both in the metaverse and into a physical world. And maybe the web, I was referring to myriad of virtual worlds for the metaverse. Now I'm also thinking it's a myriad of communities with some overlapping through ownership, through common joint ownership of NFTs. That's we are going to explore, and we're exploring, discover and connect in this paradigm.
And I want to jump into the sandbox. I know there's 10,000 Doggies that are coming out, I think, next week from Snoop Dogg. And that's going to be interesting to see how those NFTs are played, maybe as avatars inside Sandbox. And I want to get to this because you have a virtual world, literally 166,000 plus parcels of real estate that I think are 96 meters by 96 meters. Maybe you can correct me. And then you're literally creating communities and neighborhoods, which I guess is the way we always form communities back in the hunter-gatherer days. So there's a very interesting parallel. Before we get into Sandbox, can you just tell me, while we're here, what you think of the closed metaverse a la Facebook Meta versus what you're creating as the open metaverse, just so people can see the differences. And I guess while I'm there, maybe you can talk about what you call the true metaverse, as in a company like Sandbox, that metaverse is in your DNA. You're not bolting this on as an experience to a retail brand or an auto brand or a a sports team brand. This is like literally what you guys do. Maybe you can just speak on both of those points.
Okay, so first of all, about the Doggies, great to mention it. And actually, we will be one of the first collection that comes out, not just as a 2D profile picture, but as a 3D character already animated, comes with 70 actions and more, dance, jump, fight, run, kill, many more. Based on Snoop Dogg, which is like this hip hop legend that performed at Super Bowl just last weekend. Each one of them is unique, and it's readily usable into a metaverse as your 3D character. That was very important for us to add the immediate utility. That's something you do not usually see anywhere else.
And just while we're there, it's immediately available in Sandbox and then potentially other metaverses?
That's what the technology enables. So in Sandbox, you will be able to play it in the next alpha season coming around beginning of March, announcement coming really soon. And others, like as soon as they can support it, because they can read the user wallet, your ownership, and give you utility for that.
Right. And Snoop Dogg has built a mansion in the Sandbox that mimics his real life mansion in LA, I believe. Some people have paid a lot of money for the land around his mansion. And now it sounds like you're taken to the next level with these NFT doggies that are 3D with all sorts of actions that you can then move out of the metaverse. I mean, this is everything you've been talking about that's now happening.
Exactly. Like Snoop Dogg is at the forefront of showcasing the utility of NFT interoperability. And we think it's great to have that, like a mainstream hip-hop idol, showcase that in non-technological ways to his fan and the broader community.
Did you watch?
That's maybe.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yes, of course. I watched his performance. Of course.
Was he the best? He was the best at that Super Bowl.
I think. Yeah, I think his story will show us that he just went one level higher in terms of lifestyle, culture, and what hip hop represents for the US and for the rest of the world.
Yeah, it's a tremendous partnership for you to have Snoop Dogg and Sandbox. I mean, again, your timing is amazing. Obviously, the Super Bowl's there. He's become such a global brand. I used to listen to Snoop when he had a song called "Murder Was the Case That They Made Me." And then I come home from work and my 4-year-old sons are watching him on a science program. I mean, Snoop has become this incredible ultimate global brand that somehow fits into everyone's world. He cooks with Martha Stewart and now he's on the Sandbox and you got Doggies coming out. So yeah, it's very exciting.
Right.
So,
and talking about the song, I think one of the songs in the new album he released is actually called "The House I Built." Listen to the lyrics. I'm sure you'll love it.
Sandbox references in there?
Yes, you will hear Snoop say, "Welcome to the Sandbox." You will call and will say, "How much is my house worth in the metaverse?" So it's great. Like it became culture phenomenon, like from the metaverse into a song, into a 3D avatar, and more. That's how it should be.
Man, your life is like a video game somehow, Sebastien. Your life is like a movie. It's all happening, right?
Everything is. I think like everything is a game in life.
Yeah, so, I'm starting to understand that. Is Snoop Dogg even cooler in real life than what we see on the videos? What's he like?
I hope to see him soon in person. Yes, but he's smart. One thing and so that's a good transition to answer the second part of your question, which is like, how is Facebook Meta like proposing something in terms of metaverse versus what we're building? But I think this analogy with the Snoop Dogg, Doggies, etc., is great. It's a great example of what you can't do in Meta. Like you still cannot take your avatar anywhere else, your digital asset anywhere else. You cannot even choose your identity as an avatar when you start in Facebook. You just still start by picking your first name, your last name, an email address. So you're still being very much defined by who you are in the real world, rather than having the chance to pick your identity. And I haven't seen anything so far that excites me very much And that should be our role. Like, if we want to propose something new to people about what the metaverse is bringing that we haven't seen yet, the first thing to show is like, let's show it's fun. Let's show it's bring culture. Let's show it's connecting us in a different way. And well, my opinion is all the videos of those VR experience, a bit of game, a bit of work, a bit of training. I didn't feel it was 2022.
Yeah. What it looked like 10 years ago, 20 years ago, just like an old corporate video version of what the metaverse would be. It wasn't fun, is what you're trying to say.
It wasn't fun. And even worse, like Mark used very specific words. Again, like he insisted about like customers, clients, trying to sell product for brands and retail. And I understand like the metaverse is a business opportunity for many brands, but I want also to highlight that it should not be just a way for brands to try to sell product more. That shouldn't be the ultimate end goal here. Like the end goal is to be closer to the people who like your brand and offer them value. That value isn't necessarily only into selling product, physical or digital. There's that, again, I go back to the idea of experience, of community, which I think is what fans want, users want more.
Yeah, language is everything. You need to pay attention with the language people use. I had a guest on here who said the word users is used by kind of two different types of companies. One is the big tech platforms and the other is drug dealers. They both call their clients users. So you have to be very careful, like you said, with the language they use. And I had a guest on my show back in the day called Simon Sinek, and he has a book called Start With Why. And if you understand the why of a company, then you can kind of understand where they're going. And I think it's an important point you make. I mean, the why of Facebook, you know, for all the great things they brought this world, ultimately they're a company that knows how to make money by monetizing a user experience. That's why they're here. They've done maybe too good of a job at that. And it's important to understand that that probably will be the end resulting product as well. And you also said fun. I mean, if it's not fun, then I guess what's the point, right? That's where you probably look at life from a gaming perspective, right?
I think that's really, we've seen again 25 years of virtual world before, and we've tried to analyze what went wrong with them. Like the map is not something new we invented. We've seen that before in GTA or other places. Virtual world with Avatar, we didn't invent that either, but we try to embrace what people want to do, while we embrace what all of those concepts of neighborhood, of mashing up a lot of IPs and letting the user assemble, play around with their favorite brands and user-generated content the way they want, mix it up the way they want, create more content and have brands aligned with that idea rather than being protective against that. And we're definitely using gaming and game mechanics to make people come back. Because if they come once, they try it, they say, yeah, okay, it's fun, maybe, and they never come back, it's going to end up very much the same, unfortunately. And we've seen that with a lot of good technology, which didn't massively yet convince for adoption. So I'm not saying like we have solved that challenge. It's a real challenge that any company has, but we try to understand with the right why to try to give an answer that's appropriate. And it's a work in progress.
Yeah. Just to close with Facebook, you know, one of the things that Yat Siu said when he was here is he said, Brian, this is the most important struggle of our lifetimes, maybe of humanity, is to keep the metaverse open as opposed to closed. And, you know, Yat is not a guy to say things that he doesn't mean. And he said, you know, probably the only serious thing he said on the show was, we need to fight for this open metaverse because it really is our very future, our very human existence. Do you believe that this is as serious of a fight as that? And do you believe that the jury's not out as of where we're going to win it or not and keep it open?
I couldn't agree 100% more than that. Like, we need to be vocal, we need to be supportive, we need to be understanding like what we're doing here beside all the style of Web3, what Web3 is ultimately about is about being community driven and allowing users to pushing through this new digital paradigm shift where users can own their identity and their assets. It will be so easy to just be complacent with Web 2, just go back to the easiness of how everything can be done by a blink of an eye. And you close your eyes on a lot of like data privacy and other aspects and let them run. Yes. And so, because more and more people become aware and adhere, become part of this Web3 movement, including, and that's surprising, many of the Apple and Google and Facebook employees now are flowing into those Web3 companies, the change can come. And it's a very friendly, very passive, pacific revolution, I think, in a way, but it's one important to fight for if we believe that our kids and the next generation should have those rights online to own their digital assets, that they should value, as they already value their digital asset more sometimes than physical asset. And it's important to fight for.
Yeah, I think it's also important to fight for your choice of that virtual experience. And just I'll make one last point and then I want to dive deep into Sandbox. But I had a guest on recently who said, Brian, do you know that they did studies on humans where they slightly changed the Facebook news feed of articles, and they could make someone get angry or sad based on those stories. And apparently there's been studies on this. And he said, okay, that's a news feed. Imagine a virtual world where like little things could be happening. And I keep thinking maybe there's a honking horn in the background over and over again. You know, maybe there's negative, who knows? Imagine just giving your entire experience over to an entity that, again, you just don't know what their motivations are. And that for me seems just something that we just need to be careful of and try to have open versions of that, because that seems, about 1,000 times more dangerous than a news feed.
I think having human feelings, having human reaction to content is normal, and you get that into experience. Even watching a news feed is a form of experience. What's wrong is that it is actually an algorithm that is optimizing the content of the news feed based only on the thing you like, and that's it. So it's progressively removing you from part of the reality, or it's driving you into another reality, which might not be the reality for most. And that's what we've seen. It leads sometimes to political impact and more. Whereas I do believe like everyone into a world, the world is not programmatically changing all the time based on data driven, at least, well, so far, I don't know any technology capable of that. So we are living into an experience, and what makes each experience unique to us is also like how we play around it, but we're still in control, or how we interact with others at certain point of time, which might change, but then it's still much more driven by us than being driven by a non-transparent algorithm owned by a private company, which you don't know if their interest is as aligned to protect you as a user or not.
Yeah, no, good explanation. Then they're probably optimizing for emotional reaction, attention that might lead to commerce, probably. But like you said, we don't know. And again, you just described it there. We all are in our own versions of closed metaverses now through our feeds, through our YouTube suggestions, our Twitter, our Instagram feeds. We're already there. You just pretty much explained that right now. So that already is some weird version of a closed metaverse. So you have to make sure you find a way to go open. Like you said, the world is open at this point. It's not algorithmically generated. It's what we do with humans right now. So yeah, we want to tend to have that in our metaverse. Let's talk about Sandbox. I know a little bit about Sandbox because I've been talking to Yat Siu. I have some sand. I have an account. I'm looking forward to the next alpha launch where I can get in there and play. For people that don't know what the interface of Sandbox is, what the experience is like, how would you describe what you have built, including the sand token, the land token, and some of the assets inside? Again, explaining to someone new, what is the experience like for them?
So we've created this platform where with different tools, a 3D editor, an animation tool, a map, a marketplace, a game maker that is no code, so anyone can accessibly create games just by drag and drop, and a game client that allows you to access the experiences. You enter Sandbox with an account, which is linked to a wallet and an avatar for entering the experiences. We launched last December for the first time, our first alpha season, which lasts for 20 days, more or less. And we've enabled users to try out, get a first feeling, a first taste of our vision of like mixing up culture, content from brands, from creators, from the Web3 ecosystem itself, to play around with an avatar, doing various actions, and to collect, win quests, collect resources, and claim rewards afterwards. That's roughly what the first alpha of Sandbox was about, and it's been tremendously successful. We have had more than 200,000 active users at peak. We had more than 96% of engagement from the day one till the last day, and people converting their rewards, claiming their rewards at the end, which again, I've never seen such high level of engagement before in any other product or platform. Next version is going to go even further into that sense. Like I'm going to have more than 28 experiences, 1/3 of them generated by users, more social hubs, more activities. No longer you need to hold a pass in order to access the experience. So anyone can access any experiences, just you need a pass to claim at the end. So you get to choose if you want or not to claim the rewards. And we're hoping that it will help even more for people, a greater number of people to get a feeling for themselves for what it is that we're building and what it is they can build themselves. Because all of that is actually being done with one single idea. This is an inspiration for what you can do with those creation tools on your own land if you want to become a builder and be part of creating the metaverse with this community.
And Sebastien, be honest with me, you didn't know how this launch was going to go. And you're thinking, wow, I mean, no one's ever done this before. Everyone's been talking about it for years and years and years. But I mean, when you actually put it together, you don't know what's going to happen. You know, if especially the more open it is, the more chaos can break out. Like, how did it go actually? And what surprised you? What was good? What was bad?
See, having been 10 years into video games, you know, you use soft launch usually. Like you launch into a certain country, you collect data to see how things go, and you optimize for that data to increase your metrics. Here it's right. Like we didn't set any smaller group launch. That was our first test, and we were stressed. Like we were stressed for so many reasons. We've never done it before. Maybe we didn't scale all the servers and the platform enough. It could crash. It could be boring, etc. But somehow everything was aligned, and yes, we had small hiccups, but they were quickly addressed. And the rest was, I think, the community, the social posts show that was really engaging and fun. I think we've seen people start to see, to even tell us, like, you are not realizing how what I've participated into is such an important moment into the definition of what future metaverse is. Little bit like the very first virtual concert, which was, I believe, like Travis Scott in Fortnite, has set for a whole generation of people where it's going. Here we set a cap of where it can go, and well, at least we're here still, and we are going to do better seasons, and we are seeing a growing community of more and more enthusiastic people. Which is great. It's a great way to keep building and keep going on.
Well, congrats on that. It is groundbreaking stuff. And like you said, like Travis Scott's first, concert on Fortnite, or, I would say like, Joe Rogan's first video podcast. It was like, it kind of set the tune for what other people would do. It's what we kind of did here as well. And, it's important what people are seeing right now, because it really will change the flavor of what people do and see and want going forward. So these are like very important kind of like test beds.
Oh yes. Sometimes I compare it, like think of Woodstock Festival, what is done to a whole generation of people, and Travis Scott, a whole generation of like more digital native. and what the first alpha of Metaverse can do to all that next generation of people who are going to spend more time into it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And usually at the time, it was controversial, risky, innovative. And then over time, people look back and say, well, of course, that was the obvious move, you know. But at the time, there was a lot of big chances being taken, and you weren't necessarily sure what the outcome would be. So yeah, this is super exciting times. Let me ask you a question about practicality. I'm here, Brian Rose. I'm in London. I know I've had London Real for 10 years. And I'm eyeing a piece of land in the Sandbox on OpenSea for, I guess, just under 4 ETH right now, which is, last time I checked, market price of one of the cheaper parcels on Sandbox. I've got some sand that I got after talking to Animoca Brands because they were saying great things about you. If I want to take my Sandbox experience to the next level, let's say to the Snoop Dogg level, what do I do next? Do I get that piece of land? Do I go build a game in there, or do I just put my logo up? What are kind of my next steps as a brand or even as a game player that I should go on Sandbox? Do I need to wait for the next alpha launch as well?
Right now, we're still in this alpha mode where not everything is open, like alpha open to show the possibilities. Then later on this year, we're going to enable users, indeed, to publish their experience directly on their land, and anyone can access them. So it's on our roadmap, and I'm excited because it's coming up this year. So we're going to see a lot more user-generated content, etc., with creator who has been inspired by those systems we put in place, like NFT gating, NFT rewards, the concept of season, etc. And from there, anyone with their avatar should be able to access a great diversity of experience, because some people will build concerts, some will build social places, some might be focusing about mental health, well-being, art galleries, etc. A great choice of content you can access through an avatar, all built by users, but leveraging an ecosystem, tools, and IPs and brands.
Do I have to own a piece of land to host a game and create my game? So that way when you come in, you go to my piece of land to play my game, or are there other ways?
No, you do not need any purchase at all to get started. All the creation tools are free. You can create directly with the game maker. And only at the last moment, if you want to publish something on the land to the public, you need indeed to have a land where to publish.
Okay. All right. Oh, understood. So I can create the game, but then ultimately, if I want people to play that game, I need a piece of land to publish. And then they find me via that coordinate, or they can go around, and then when they get to that land, then they enter my gaming experience.
Correct.
Okay. And there's 166,000 plus unique parcels of land. And I'm guessing that's just the surface area of the Earth divided into 96 by 96 meter squares. Did I get that right? Or is my math and my engineering degree failing me?
No, that's correct. 166, 464 land in total. Right now, Sandbox has about 2 million registered wallet accounts, which is growing every week. We feel like overall, our estimate is that there will be somewhere 20, 30,000 experiences and games available on the map once it's fully open and live. And in the meantime, there will be probably a couple hundred of experiences already to engage for users with avatars. We are seeing more than 19,000 landowners at the moment as well. About 70% of the map was built.
To continue watching the rest of the episode for free, visit our website londonreal.tv or click the link in the description below.